Hey everybody, welcome to Brilliant But Lazy, Victims and Villains podcast about pop culture. And boy, do we have a lot of culture to pop.
Yes.
A lot of things have happened. I'm your host, Alan.
And I'm your other host, Josh.
Welcome back, Josh. We've missed you here on Brilliant But Lazy. It hasn't
I
been the
have
same.
missed you. I've missed you.
We had fun with Josh and Cam talking about Shazam. Well, the Shazam talk wasn't really that fun. Dungeons and Dragons, that was a lot of fun. We really missed you on that one. We also missed you at the Horrific Hope Film Festival. Hopefully we'll get to see you there next year.
Yes.
But there's a lot to talk about today, so we're going to get right into it. So this is a little bit of a different episode because a lot of things have ended this week or aired this week that we're like, you know what? Let's just talk about all of it because this is what the show could be. So that's why we're here. So we're going to start things off talking about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always. The made for Netflix movie starring some of the cast of the original Power Rangers. Josh, you and I have talked before about Power Rangers back when Jason David Frank passed away. What was your experience with Power Rangers growing up?
Like I told you back then, I was not allowed to watch most television shows that weren't on PBS. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was too violent. Power Rangers was too violent. So I remember being in school. I think I was in second grade, and this guy comes up to me. He's like, "Dude, have you heard of Power Rangers?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I can't watch it." And he's like, "There is this. There's a Green Ranger that's supposed to be premiering tonight, and it's going to be all week. He's got a whole series on just the Green Ranger, and I think he's a spy, and it's coming out tonight." I was like, "Man, that sounds really cool." And he's like, "You should call your mom and tell her we're best friends so you can come over to my house after school and you can watch it there." And so I went over to his house for the first time, and then every other day that week so I could watch that whole Green Ranger saga. And
Nice.
After that, I've been obsessed. So I remember the 95 film and just being like, "Oh my god, there's a Power Rangers movie." And I loved it. I loved it growing up. I haven't kept up with all the iterations past that, but I was a Fox Kids fan, and so I collected cards and little things, and it's good part of my childhood for sure.
Yeah, same here. I was allowed to watch Power Rangers for some reason. So I was really excited for this 30th anniversary reunion special that they did. And the fact that it wasn't just hey, let's sit around and talk about the show that we did 30 years ago. It's an actual story with the characters that, most of the characters that you got to know on that show, with the original cast coming back for some of them. And then obviously some people didn't come back. But it was weird because I work at a school now, and I said yesterday, I was like, wow, I'm actually going to go home and watch Power Rangers. I haven't done this since elementary school. And that's what I did. I came home, put on Netflix, and, watched Ted Lasso. And then when my wife went to bed, I watched Power Rangers. So it was a great double feature. But I thought this was a little bit... This was about what I expected the Netflix special to be. It's cheesy. It didn't get everyone back, so they had to write around it. But I thought it was fun, but I have issues with it. What do you think?
Yeah, non-spoiler thoughts. I mean, it's an hour-long made-for-TV movie. I liked seeing, David Yost come back and Walter come back. I liked that they kind of wove in the loss of Trini, the Yellow Ranger, and talked about her daughter. It was cheesy. It felt like a natural extension, bringing these people back. Like they've always been Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and it's still a part of their life. I thought some of the choreography it looked very much like the 90s, but then every once in a while there'd be like a slow-mo shot, and I'd be like, oh, I kind of like that camera work and that choreography and I mean, it's all in the context of a Power Rangers movie made for streaming, but in that context, I was still entertained. I didn't feel like it went on for too long, and by the end of it, I was like, oh, all right, well, that was that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything spoiler free that I can say. I thought Robo Rita was cool. I liked how they did like small Easter eggs to other Power Ranger series. Like they mentioned SPD, and they mentioned the alien rangers that Billy used to flirt with. But yeah, the one thing that bugged me about this, and I get why they had to kill Trini's character off, but it felt like at a certain point they just kept mentioning it too much, and it felt awkward to me, because if you don't know, the actress who played Trini died in a car accident in 2001. So I get that you need to pay tribute to her legacy, but it felt like they relied on that too much for the story. And it got a little awkward. They kept mentioning her death. Like, knowing the real history behind it, it just got eerie at a certain point.
Well, I think... Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it also felt awkward because they mentioned her a lot, but not Tommy's character. And I get it that they didn't want to, like, say that Tommy was gone as well and then have to write in a Green Ranger replacement.
Well,
but there was, unless I missed something, there wasn't a lot of nod to Tommy either.
There wasn't any, because they filmed this before he died.
That's right. And he
had declined to be in it. They were filming this. Well, I think the reason that he wasn't in it and Amy Jo Johnson weren't in it was because they didn't want to travel to New Zealand to film it.
Okay. It was still oddly like did the Green Ranger even have a line? I can't even remember if he had a line or not.
He had the hee-yaw, hee-yaw. Like, they had the archive audio
effects.
footage.
And of course, they got captured really early, so that kind of took them out of the main.
It took them out of it. Austin Shane John, who played Jason the Red Ranger, wasn't in it because he was having legal issues when this went into production, so he wasn't going to be in it. I don't think he was allowed to leave the country. So
a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but
yeah. So, but you had Alpha. You had Alpha 9, I think it was. You had a brief photo of Bulk and Skull. I could have used a little bit more side characters. I wish Bulk and Skull were actually in it. Like, that would have made it for me. Like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, we're gonna get Bulk and Skull, and then they never showed up. I was like, oh. Yeah.
But still, it was fun. You had Rita in a form. It wasn't this earth-shattering plot, but it was a callback to the originals. They even had the original spuds, and I did like it. There were times when they would morph in, and the red or the blue ranger would had his laser gun out, would start shooting as soon as they went in there, and then would put it away, and they'd fight for 10 minutes. I'm like, if you could just shoot them all, that would be quicker. But I did like the Yellow Ranger story with
I did
Trini's
like that
daughter,
as well.
and I thought that was cool.
I would like to see more of her down the line, and I feel like they set this up that there could be more, because there's the whole mystery about, is Zordon still out there if Rita was out there.
Yeah, I like that they were tying that in. And I like that she couldn't just take the thing and become it. Like, she had to earn it and stuff like that. And I thought that was cool. I like the little things, like her saying, "Oh," to Walter or Zach, oh, I'm surprised you could be here after, you're not a senator anymore. I guess you have some more time. And I'm like, he was a senator? Because I don't know if that was part of a previous show or not, but I was like, oh, okay.
I like that they kept the canon, the comics continuity of Kat and Tommy getting married. So my main question for you is, you grew up on the 1995 movie. Which Megazord looks worse, that one or the one in Once and Always?
I mean, I should have watched the 95 film and prep for this. It's been a minute. I did watch it, a year ago when we talked about Jason. But that had a lot of really crappy CGI, for 90s CGI. So, I mean, I'd always go for more practical, and this was definitely more practical. It wasn't anything special, but I don't know. I'd probably go with this over the 95 film.
It was weird seeing the Megazord. I'm stuck in the Megazords.
Okay. Yeah.
The Megazord here being animated instead of a guy in a suit was bizarre, but I liked it. Like, I liked the action of it. I didn't think it looked
terrible. Yeah.
I think it looked slightly better than 1995 because it was able to do more than just slowly pick up a sword and swing it.
Yeah. Well, 28 years later, that's what you hope for, right? Slightly better.
Slightly better. We got there.
There you go. Yeah.
And there's only 2 Rangers in this that were Rangers in that movie, because Zach and Kat were not Rangers in that movie.
Right.
Kat was at least in Turbo, but Rocky and Billy are the only ones who have appeared in all 3 Power Ranger movies from the main Rangers.
I did like, it had that nostalgia factor. That opening shot of them. First of all, I like that it just started right in the action. I mean, literally, the first scene is the Blue Ranger, facing off. And then you get the other Rangers there, and there's the fireballs for no reason. And then, bam, the title. And I'm like, yes, here we go. I'm in it, So, I mean, it was a strong start. I did like, there was some, like, in that first fight, there was a spot where they, like, slowed it down, and Billy was, like, in air and did this kick, and I'm like, all right, that looks good. I didn't expect much, but there was some fun things. Did you lose me? What happened? Oh my gosh. We're just being plagued with all kinds of things. I just lost connection for some reason.
Yeah, well, your video's clearer now, so hey.
Okay, well, sorry, but
it's okay.
Like I said, I didn't expect much, but I liked some of the things they threw in there. I thought some of the camera work was fun. I thought some of the choreography was fun. It was an enjoyable hour that I really didn't know what to expect, so I was pleased with it.
Yeah, it was fun. I would like to see more of them, because I feel like they're setting this up for like a movie a year or so.
Yeah.
But what got me, like, the reason I think I'm talking highly of it now, because watching it, I was like, I don't know about this. Like, this doesn't, I don't know. But the end credits where they do the opening to Power Rangers shot for shot, I was like, okay, you got me there. Like, that got me right in the nostalgia. And then they did the tribute to Trini and Tommy, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I forgot about that scene where it's Kimberly's character singing a song with Zach, and it's like, that's a good way to pay tribute to them.
Sure.
So that got me in the emotions.
Oh, yeah. Nostalgia footage with the right song will always do that, and credit to them for doing it right. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, that does it for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always. let's move on to our next topic for the week. The final season of Star Trek Picard. So I wrote a review for season 1 of Picard back when it aired in 2019. Was it 2019 or was it 2020? It might have been 20. It might have been 2020. Season 1 was okay. There are things about season 1 that I enjoy. Season 2, I was not a fan of. It tried to do some stuff that worked, and others parts of it didn't work for me. I like the time travel idea. The delivery of it didn't really work for me. So I was a bit iffy going into season 3. What has your experience been with Star Trek Picard?
When they announced it, I was all shits and giggles. I was excited. From what I've heard behind the scenes now, a lot of the things that they agreed upon up front was kind of the reasons why it didn't do so well. There was an agreement for no uniforms. There was an agreement for very severe lack of TNG cameos. Like, they really wanted to cut back on that. I think for those reasons and many other reasons, I think the first season, a lot of people forgave it because it's Picard, man. It's Patrick Stewart back, but it had the blood of of Discovery and Alex Kurtzman Star Trek, whether that was the language or the edgy storyline or the choices. I didn't like it. I didn't like the first season. I thought the first season was garbage. I thought the second season was flaming garbage. I despised so much of it. I love seeing Seven of Nine and some of these other characters, but what they did with, it wasn't Data, but it was his actor. What they did with Brent Spiner and the Borg, and the Borg SWAT team. And so many other things. I hated it. I hated it so much. Then they announced season 3, and I'm like, why? But here's the thing. They announced season 3 midway through season 2. When season 2 was not performing well, they announced season 3 and basically said the entire TNG cast is coming back. And basically saying, please stick around. We know you don't like this current season, but get ready for the next season.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if they hired people, but for the last 6 months, anybody that's even loosely connected with Star Trek fandom apparently got to see season 3 like 6 months ago, and they've been professing on Twitter and all social media sites, hang on, you're gonna love season 3. And I was like, I don't know, man, because I've been burned twice, and so I went into this like, not even cautiously optimistic, just cautiously. But I didn't really have a strong footing because I really did not like seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah, I remember when they announced season 3, I was like, okay, like, I is it going to be like for an episode each that they're all coming back? But
sure, like a cameo at a time, yeah.
And then I remember the trailer came out when we were at New York Comic Con together. And I'm watching it there in the booth. Like, oh, okay. Like, everyone's actually in it. Like, this could be pretty cool. And then Brent Spiner showed up, and they're like, lore. I was like, wait, what?
I remember there was something about, they teased that Worf was going to be in it, but he's a pacifist. And me and thousands of other Star Trek fans were like, the fuck? No, he's Worf. Like, he's Klingon. Don't make him a pacifist. So I didn't know what to expect about him. Again, I really did not trust that they had this in the bag.
Yeah, I didn't either. But then each week I got more and more into it.
Oh,
I was
me
like,
too.
maybe they're on the right track with this, guys. Like maybe this is a good season of this show finally. And could that be just from nostalgia? Probably. Am I okay with it? Absolutely.
It's weaponized nostalgia, but it's done correctly. Yeah.
Set phases to nostalgia. Full blast.
Full blast.
absolutely adored this season. Like, I will go back and rewatch this season repeatedly.
Yes.
This was a great send-off to this crew that didn't really get the proper send-off that the original Star Trek crew got with the Undiscovered Country. Because the show ends great. Like, Next Gen's ending is fantastic. The movies didn't really give them the only thing that was missing from the finale of Picard was the signatures in
I
the
know,
stars.
like the Avengers style signatures. Yeah.
Well, Star Trek did it first.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's right. That's it.
Yeah.
They did.
So, but yeah, I really enjoyed this season. What were some of the highlights for you?
Are we keeping it spoiler free, or are we just talking about it?
We can keep it spoiler free for a bit if you want.
I liked the structure of the season. The first 4 episodes, you could have watched it as a movie. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really interesting. I liked the setup. Them talking about the Dominion War and fallout from that. I liked that. I knew they were bringing back the TNG cast over a spread of time. I liked how they reintroduced those characters. I also liked the non-TNG characters not being fucking annoying. Like they had Todd Stashwick as Shaw, and he was great. He was great in the whole series. They had Ed Spielers, who my wife and I had just watched in You season 3 as Jack, and he was great. I just, the new characters were not a burden on the show that everybody was coming to watch for the old characters. Yeah. So that was great. I felt the writing was strong. I can't really remember everything about the first couple episodes, but for the majority of them, I feel like there was an oh shit moment and in every episode, and whether or not that was a cameo or a throwback to something or just a smart piece of writing, I thought each episode was like, oh shit, they did this and I like it, and I just thought it was very intelligent. I thought they called back on things that were big at times and very small at times, but they did it in a really well done way. And even though Alex's name is attached to it, you felt his absence. And, it's insane that before this season I was like, just let this die. You've screwed up twice. And now I'm like, damn it, it's the end. We can't have more of this because this was done so well. It really, I can't praise it enough, and I can't express how shocked I was that this felt like a serious, natural sequel to TNG. It's insane how natural it was.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. So, was Kurtzman not involved because of Strange New Worlds or something else that he's working on?
I have no idea. I do not follow those circles enough to say that I know anything other than, he was still attached as producer and stuff like. He wasn't completely withdrawn, but he was withdrawn enough from the writing and the show running that most people noticed.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think they do a good job of keeping the 3 characters from Picard. So, Picard, 7 of 9, and Raffi involved in the story. And usually the Raffi storyline's like, I don't know about this. But
I know.
The way it starts off is like, okay, I think I know who her handler is. And then I was right, and
oh, I didn't even guess it. I didn't even guess that. And I was surprised so much that I was invested in her character. I really didn't care for her character until this season.
Yeah, the internet kind of guessed, and I was like, that'd be cool. Like, I hope that's how it plays out. And then it was. And I will say, I'm going to plant my flag in this one and say Worf was my favorite part of this whole season.
Oh, he was.
I don't know when Worf became the comic relief for the TNG crew, but I'm here for it. I really enjoyed Michael Dorn's performance as Worf this on this show. And I enjoyed everyone on it, but Worf really stole the show for me.
And while he was a pacifist, he wasn't an anti-violence pacifist, and I appreciated that. I loved him. Not to mention, he looked so good. You know,
Yeah.
like his white beard looked good. He looked healthy. It didn't look like, you know, when some other shows bring somebody back and then you're like, that's a body double, that's a body double. Oh, it's a face shot, that's a body double. He looked good, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of little things that we could talk about with him and his interactions with Riker and the crew, and you know, I just loved it. Oh, it just felt like, oh, here we go, we're back, we're back.
There's a moment where it's Worf, Riker, and Deanna Troy, and Worf just starts flirting with Troy again.
Yeah,
and,
that's the whole
and
thing.
Riker's just like, we're doing this again. Like, they're the two. Like, I would watch a buddy cop show with Riker and Worf in an instant, because the two of them playing off of each other is fantastic. Jonathan Frakes is great. Jonathan Frakes directed some of these episodes. I got to. The weird thing about this show is I got to meet Gates McFadden while the show was on.
Okay.
I met her at GalaxyCon in Richmond when we did the panel for victims, and had like a 5-minute conversation with her, and she asked me and my wife what we do, and we talked about her choreography career. And I got a photo up of Jonathan Frakes, but that was like hi, bye kind of thing. But it was weird, like wanting to ask questions about what's going to happen on the show, but knowing that they can't answer, so there's no point.
Yeah.
And just being like, the show's great, can't wait to see more. Like,
yeah, they were both at Planet as well, and I wanted to go see them and just shake their hands and say, hey, from what I've seen so far, well done. But I couldn't get away. But
yeah.
and it was nice to seeing her, and I liked the intrigue. You know, it's not a spoiler, but the intrigue at the beginning of like where has Crusher been all this time? You know, and why did she go away? You know, it was like I just liked how they reintroduced all these characters, and there wasn't one TNG character that felt out of place of where they were at this point in time. None of them were like, none was some edgy thing like, he's a drunk now and he hates the Starfleet, or, you know, he's in jail for XYZ. They didn't have to do an edgy rewrite of any of these characters. They all felt like legacy Starfleet characters. They all felt like they were in their point in life for a reason, and you accepted it because it was presented well. And they all had their tribute moment and their character done just. And I can't appreciate that enough. You know, I really liked how each of them were and where each of them were in life.
Yeah, and the big mystery of why was there this disconnect between Beverly and the rest of them for 20 years is kind of revealed pretty fast, like especially when you look at the first 4 episodes as a movie. And you figure it, like the first person to figure it out is Riker.
Riker. Yeah.
Because his reaction to seeing Jack is just like, oh yeah, that's your kid.
Yeah. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? You know. Yeah.
Because I think it's the second episode. He's like, yeah, this is what's going on here, dude. Like, and
connect
like,
the dots. Yeah.
Riker is such a fascinating character to me. Because he's not he's such a different number one than what you have with Spock. Like, he's got the personality, he's got the charm, and you don't get that with Spock in the original series. But yeah, I like I went back and rewatched the first episode of Next Gen just to put it on in the background, and I forgot that the whole thing about the first episode was Picard being like, I don't like kids. I don't know how to act around them. I need you to be the go-between between me and the crew when it comes to the kids. And then you watch Generations where Picard's family dies and he's the last Picard, and there's this whole big journey about Picard's legacy and what he leaves behind. And I think the Star Trek in general has done a great job of addressing that and like leading up to this. So it's a natural progression for him to have a son he doesn't know about and then embrace him and be able to spend time with him. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to end the character. If this is the end of what we'll see from Jean-Luc Picard, I think that was such a great way to do it.
Yeah. I think if I could say anything more that's not spoilery, is that there was from the opening credits, there's this distinct separation of this season from the previous seasons. We don't have some corny, and I'll call it corny because I didn't really care for it. We don't have some corny musical opening credits, for Picard. We have Picard. We've got the old TNG Star Trek soundtrack score type thing, and then you just have in blue, the title of the episode. There's a sense of grandeur at the beginning of each episode, and you felt the significance of that. It felt different. It did feel like even the blue text felt like a callback to the Next Generation. There was just so many little things like that felt different and that separated this from the rest. And literally, small things like Rafi, I still met people on Twitter and I was like, you don't have to watch season 1 and 2. There's a couple things that you'll probably have to get filled in, like Rafi and stuff like that. And how does Picard know 7 of 9 and stuff like that. But for the most part, this was its own thing. And they did a really good job at that. And I think that's another reason why it succeeded so well.
And they do a good job of filling you in on what happens in seasons 1 and 2. Without
overdoing it.
Without spoon feeding it to you. And there are some jokes that you'll miss. Like Riker, like Deanna talking about Riker's pizza. Which is a whole thing from season 1 that became a little bit of a meme here at my house, at least. But let's get. Do we want to get into spoilers? Because
we can do quick spoilers.
I kind of spoiled the big thing of Picard has a son with Beverly.
But it wasn't the focus of the show. I mean, it was, but it wasn't like a huge thing. Yeah.
Well, there was a whole mystery behind something going on with him, and for like I had a feeling that the way they were going, and I was right. It ends up being
hold up. Don't. I mean, that's the end. Let's talk about at least the first 4 episodes. The main villain, the main villain in the first half of the season is Amanda Plummer as Vatic or whatever.
The Changelings.
She's great. And Changelings. Yeah. And once you realize it's Changelings, I was like, ooh, this is interesting. They're talking a lot about the Dominion War, which apparently there's a potential series coming out that'll deal more with the Dominion War that I could be interested in. But she's just one in a long line of interesting villains, and I just liked her. I liked her portrayal. I liked everything from, her charisma, her little things like talking about like how clocks don't have gears anymore, but you can hear the ticking of time, and she's smoking cigars, and her connection with changelings and why she looks the way she looks. I liked her as a villain.
They did a good job of getting a villain to this show. An original villain. But also keeping it in the Star Trek legacy, because her dad, Christopher Plummer, was the villain in Star Trek Undiscovered Country. So
yes. It's crazy.
It was a nice little callback there as well. So
yeah, I liked the changeling stuff. I thought that was really creepy at times, especially the spies. The first 4 episodes do a lot with this portal gun, and they're stuck in this gas cloud or whatever. I thought those graphics were fun. I just like the cat and mouse game of her giant ship versus the Titan and everything, and there was a sense of peril. There was even a rift between Riker and Picard at one point that I thought was really done well. Riker got severely pissed off, and he got severely depressed, and we get a little insight of him losing his son, and how that was playing into things. And I just thought those things were so well written. And then it kind of moved on from that to other things and more Jack focused and other character focused. But
Yeah.
Again, I just thought the structure was really well. I didn't think there was any like really dead episodes this season. I thought the pacing of the season was very well done.
Yeah, because the whole series is building towards getting the crew back together. So once you once you know about the conspiracy that's happening, then you have Picard and Worf connecting, and then the next episode they're together, and then okay, let's bring Geordi into it. Okay, now so it's it's building to that reunion of everyone.
Yeah. And then you have cameos scattered throughout there. Some of them were teased in the trailer, like Moriarty coming back. My favorite one was the return of Ro Laren. As soon as I saw her, I was like, "Oh my God, they brought back Ro." Those were some of my most favorite TNG episodes, and when she was gone, I was like, "No, I love that character."
Yeah, they did such a great job with that connection, because even if you don't know those episodes, I think the performances between Patrick Stewart and Michelle Forbes in those scenes is so... It shows how seriously Picard took his role as a captain and mentor to these people. So, like, with her leaving the way she did and like abandoning Starfleet, you see his hurt. I'm sure that if like Wesley were to come back, you could have the same thing with him. Like he takes them in and teaches them, and then they leave, and like her reasons for leaving he didn't agree with, but they did such a great job of making you feel that heartbreak from him. And usually like on the show, Jean-Luc Picard he'd get angry, but he'd be steadfast. Like he wouldn't get emotional, and he got emotional here. And that was it was a nice change of pace for the character.
Yeah. And then on top of both of their clear emotions in that episode of Picard was also this, is she really Ro? Because we're learning about the changelings and how infested Starfleet is. And then, everything from, you're not wearing your earring, how would you come back? Why would Starfleet let you back? And little things like she didn't even trust the transporters. I just loved everything about it, and I was so happy that it really was her. I really didn't want some cheap changeling thing, because it just felt so good for them to air out their grievances, and that was one of my favorite parts of the season. I really loved seeing her.
That was definitely my favorite cameo. I like the bait and switch that they did with Brett Spiner. So in the trailers they show him and they say Lore, so you think he's back as Lore. But what they end up doing is bringing him back as a version of Data. And I think the Data stuff is some of my favorite as well. Like, they did a really good job of addressing Data coming back, even though he's died twice in Star Trek already between Nemesis and season 1 of Picard. The reason he's back this time makes him a lot more sense. And it wasn't just like, oh, hey, Data's here. There was a journey he had to go on to get there with Lore. And as soon as like what got me was seeing Geordi seeing his friend again. Like the one thing that Nemesis robbed us of was Geordi getting to say goodbye to Data, and because that never happened. Data dies in an explosion, and they barely address it. The movie ends, and then the franchise is rebooted 5 years later. But seeing them reunite, like, that got me, like, it was so well handled that I wasn't upset that they've already killed him twice and he's alive again. So
it was so well handled that I forgot about Picard season 1 and 2, where they just kept on ruining anything Brent Spiner related. Like, they just kept on just ruining him. And then, again, it was like they just wiped all of that away, and it was Data and Lore. And then I loved the interaction between Data and Lore and all the little things, like, this is Spot, and he had a like a little figurine trophy of what's her name, the first security officer,
Tasha Yar.
Tasha Yar. Just little things like that he was handing to Lore, and I was like, I know what he's doing. I know what he's doing, and Lore's just eating it up. And I just thought that was brilliant how they did it. And then just to give Data what he always wanted. He always wanted to feel as human as he could possibly be. Yeah. And now, now that he's older, he has the aged look, he's got full emotions, and he's still surprised by it, and he's bringing it up. And then finally is he gets to have a gut feeling, and I just like, that's a full circle for his character, and I loved it.
Not to mention Brent Spiner doesn't have to wear the makeup anymore. So
I'm sure he loved that.
Yeah.
I liked Tim Russ was in there a couple times from Voyager. Elizabeth Dennehy came back as Elizabeth Shelby. It took me a minute. I'm like, oh, I recognize her. Who is she? And I was like, oh shit, it's Shelby. Yeah,
who was Shelby?
She was she was in a couple TNG episodes where she was just this stuck-up commander who just came on board, and like even Picard like tried to sweet talk her, and she just was not having it. She was rubbing everybody the wrong way. She was just this stuck-up, white-haired chick that everybody kind of hated, but she wasn't necessarily a villain, and there was a respect that was eventually mutual. And just seeing her come back, and she's still high up in Starfleet, I was like, that's cool. That's cool that she's back.
A lot of name drops for Janeway, but we didn't get to see Janeway.
Gosh, I really thought she was going to have something in the finale, but she didn't, and I was kind of sad.
You got more Tim Russ, though. More Tuvok.
Yeah, which is fine. And you got more development for Seven as well. Again, between Season 1 and Season 2 of Picard, there were so many versions of Seven, and I'm like, I don't like any of this, but she's back in uniform now, and Shaw's riding her ass, and she's trying to decide who to be loyal to, but she's loyal to herself and her own morals, and I love that she got a scene with Tim Russ, because her and Tuvok were very, she relied on Tuvok so much in Voyager to develop herself, and I loved that, and I loved her growth in this show, and I loved Shaw's growth with her. Shaw was such a dick in the beginning, but I was so sad when he was gone, and he was a great character as well. Yeah,
there was a lot of people online who were like, when are they going to announce the Shaw and 7 of 9 show? And then, spoilers, he dies. But by the end of the show, Seven's the captain. So, yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. So it's revealed that the mastermind behind the changelings and Savik's plan is the Borg, which should have been fairly obvious to all of us once they started playing the first Contact theme in the end credits.
Yep.
What did you think of the use of the Borg in the last few episodes of this?
Once again, I was like, we've had so much of the Borg already in Picard, but this is the Borg that I respect. This isn't some, the Borg can be changed because one of the characters is now in control and they're going to be kind of heroes, and I just, the bad taste of season 2 is still in my mouth. But the fact that they brought Alice Krieg's voice back for the Queen, once I realized it was her, I was like, yes. And I don't care how much it's been overdone. Locutus, that story is still so great. It's why I loved First Contact. that opening scene of First Contact where Picard, has a nightmare about the ship popping out of his face. I love that. The TNG made the Borg such a threat, and then for the most part, Voyager continued that threat. They overused the Borg to a degree, but the Borg is such a huge part of TNG and a huge part of Picard's character, and I loved how they kind of brought things back. Like, he didn't really have this syndrome. This was something that the Borg kind of put in his body ever since Locutus, and then having that passed down in some way to Jack. I just liked it. I liked all the intrigue of what the hell is in Jack's head, and why does he keep seeing this door, and then for it to open up and be the Borg. I was like, I remember when it showed, when the door opened and you see the cube, and I was like, I know I should hate this, but I really like it. And I liked it. It was just good, No,
they do a good job of bringing it in. The mystery was, they give you just enough to, like, if you go back and watch it, it's probably going to be a little bit more obvious now.
Yeah.
I like that they brought Alice Crane back for the voice.
Unfortunately,
I think they're
not in person, but
I feel like they were kind
fine.
of between a rock and a hard place, because Annie Wershing, who played the Borg Queen in season 2, was in the middle of a cancer battle when they filmed this, and she lost it just before the season premiered. So the first episode is dedicated to her. So I from the second to last episode where they you just hear the voice, like, oh, they're not going to show the Borg Queen at all, but then they do, and I thought she looked pretty cool in the finale here.
Yeah, and she was deformed enough that if you might not have known that it wasn't Alice Krieg. I guess she just couldn't make the filming. Her schedule couldn't allow it. But I like that. I like that it wasn't somebody different, that they used her voice. They even dubbed her voice over that. And it made sense, because that is Picard's Borg Queen. That's that's their First Contact Borg Queen. And I liked it. It wasn't overdone. She was deformed. She was kind of very stationary. She was like eating off the flesh of the Borg in her cube. And I thought it was neat. I liked it. And I liked that the new assimilation of the youth. It wasn't like it was just like automatic. It was like Wi-Fi assimilation, or Bluetooth assimilation, or 5G for all the conspiracy theory nuts out there.
Yeah. So we haven't talked about the big return of the season 3. But before we get to that, I want to talk in general about Geordi LaForge working at the Fleet Museum, because I think some of my favorite Easter eggs are in the episode where they're in the Titan just looking at the Fleet Museum and talking about all the different ships and everything. They just going through all of Star Trek lore, because they talk about the bird of prey, and they're like, oh yeah, that's the one from the one with the whales. Like, they even in canon, they're like, everyone knows, like, yeah, that's the one Kirk got the whales on.
Yeah.
What did you think of the Fleet Museum and all the different ships that are just
I thought it was
there?
I thought it was a cool thing. I thought the compared to where they went to get data, where did they go to get data? It was like a black site for
Daystrom Station.
Yeah, it was a black site for Daystrom, and I thought that was just kind of like, okay, like, it wasn't anything spectacular. But then the reverse of that is this museum with all these old ships, and I was just like, this is cool. It'd be cool to be the caretaker for this museum, and then to turn out that that's Geordi. And we've seen him in command roles before. I think he had a cameo in Voyager where he was a captain of a starship, and he had some other command roles in the past. But to see that he's the caretaker for this, I liked it. I just thought it made sense, because he's a techie, and he would appreciate the evolution of ships and stuff like that.
I'm fairly sure the only reason he took that posting was to rebuild the Enterprise D.
Sure.
But going
And
back
I
to
like that it's the D because
Yes.
it's, sorry, go ahead. I like that.
no, I like that it was the D too. Like I love the D. Give me more of the D. I can say that on the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, as soon as once they kind of played with, oh yeah, there's something in that one hangar that we're not going to show you. I was like, it's the Enterprise. Like, it's Picard's Enterprise. Like they somehow got it back, and they did. And I looked at my wife after the episode where they all go back on the bridge, and I was just like, "Are you okay? Because I'm not okay." How did you feel seeing that bridge again for the first time in 30 years?
It was so beautiful. It was so well recreated. It just like I should have known that's where they were going, because it's the Battlestar Galactica thing of new tech is worthless and you need old tech to survive.
Yeah.
So that is literally what they needed to do, and so I should have known that this is where they were going, but I didn't, and I didn't know that they were going to go that far back. Considering what happened to the Enterprise D, and so I mean, they didn't go retro with everything. The cast still has kind of the new age jacket uniforms, and so they could have gone back to the Nemesis Enterprise or something like that, and I knew it was going to be something around there, but then when they showed that, I'm like, oh my gosh, and then they turn the lights on and everything comes on in the bridge, and it looks like the old bridge. It's not it's got the same kind of tint, like the yellow tint and everything, and the carpet. I think Picard says something about he misses the carpet.
He does. That was the one thing I noticed rewatching the pilot before the end of Picard was, why does the Enterprise D have carpets? Like that's something they got away from very quickly. Why does this one have it? And then he called it out, because I was always like, I kind of like the carpet aesthetic. Like I would love, like, that kind of works for me for that Enterprise. That's what I remember from growing up. And then he mentioned it, and that's what got me. Like, oh my God, I'm on the same page as Jean-Luc Picard about the carpets on the Enterprise. Yeah. Like, what is my life?
Not to mention the lighting. Like every new ship, the lighting of the command deck or whatever is so dark. Like, it doesn't matter if it's an actual Starfleet ship or just some renegade ship. They're all dark, and then this one is like proper lighting of the 90s, because you have to it's a TV show and everything. And I was just like, yes. I mean, they put a lot of heart into the recreation of that bridge.
They did.
It worked. It really worked.
One more thing before we get too far away from Daystrom Station. There is one Easter egg in there that I really hope they address in the near future. And it's, why does Starfleet have Captain James T. Kirk's body?
Yeah.
And why is it giving off life signs?
It was giving off life signs?
I think so.
Are you sure?
I mean, they were monitoring it, so...
Was Picard's?
I don't think
doing the same thing? Okay.
But
I remember somebody talking about that, and I can't remember the point that they were making. But yeah, it was interesting that they had the bodies there. That they had the bodies there instead of somewhere else, Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's to cover the fact that Kirk didn't die on the Enterprise B like everyone thought he did, and they just took his body when they took the Enterprise D off of the planet from Generations.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
But I also saw somewhere...
Sorry,
they have Archer's body too. So Scott Bakula's character from Enterprise.
Yeah. Somebody said that they, that they were having all the Enterprise captains for, and I was like, well, I mean, or they were having all the captains there. I was like, that would be an entire cemetery worth of Starfleet captains, and we didn't see rows and rows of caskets. So there has to be a reason. There was some people saying, with deep fake now or stuff like that, they might try to do a deep fake Kirk for an upcoming show or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if that's what we really want. But that was interesting to see for sure. I did like Moriarty doing the whistle and Riker trying to connect that, and then the scene just flipped to the old TNG episode, and I was like, oh my god, that's done so well. Like, just the footage just flipping, and you just see just a little spark of young Riker, and then I remembered the scene, and I'm like, oh, that's the scene where Data's whistling, and I just like that little, they didn't do it a lot in this season, but that little cutback to that episode, I just thought that was done really well.
They did it in the finale to First Contact when one of the most shocking moments of this whole show was when Picard, at least for me, was when Picard's like, I'm giving up on fighting. I'm not running anymore. I'm just going to fight you by joining you, and then connects back to the collective. I was like, I never thought I'd see that. And then they show clips of the opening from First Contact you were talking about, because that is so iconic with Locutus. Yeah.
Yeah, the finale was great. I was so jealous of the cities that got to show the last 2 episodes in IMAX in movie format, because if I ever get the chance, I would love to do that. I think they should do that. I think they should, do a after the fact kind of quick run of that through the nation for those people that want to see it, because I would love to see the Enterprise D on an IMAX screen. But everything about that final episode was great. We have Enterprise D in massive combat, like straight up Data and his hunch flying it into a Borg cube and doing all craziness, and I just thought that was brilliant. The stuff with Picard reconnecting himself and having that moment with Jack was just great. The little part where Riker and Worf, of all people, get kind of cornered, and Worf is just taking hits, Worf fashion, and he gives him his what's it called? It's a sword, but he gives him his and Riker just drops it because it's so heavy. I love little things like that. Like the whole finale just had little moments like that I was just like, this is great. Everything that Seven of Nine and her crew was going through, it was just a well-made finale. There was a lot of urgency to it, and I really liked it.
And a sense of dread, because this is the series finale, and this is potentially the end of these characters. So you don't know, for the first time in a while, I didn't know if anyone was going to not make it out alive. So
could have easily been the whole crew sacrifices itself for the new generation. So, yeah.
Especially when the title of the episode is The Last Generation.
Yeah.
There's a great moment where Troy is giving Data a counseling session, and then Riker comes in at the end. He's like, how'd it go? Still batshit? About Data.
The music was great. The music, I went back and replayed it afterwards. The music with Picard connecting and then talking to Crusher in the whole little, mind thing. That music is just so great. And then Jack coming back and ripping everything out, and then freeing, ripping it out of Picard. Oh, that was it was good. It was really good.
And
then the ship flying over him. It was just all well done. Yeah.
If I was William Shatner, I'd be so pissed that Picard gets this great story arc with his son, and then Kirk just gets Klingon bastards killed my son. Like, it's so, they did so well with, and I'm surprised I'm saying this. This does something better than the original Star Trek movies, which is that relationship between the main captain that you get to know and their son they didn't know about.
Yeah.
I want to go back and rewatch it. Like, you've convinced me that I need to go back and rewatch this now.
I was trying to rewatch it with Maddie, And I was trying to be like, hey, the guy from You, he's in this.
Yeah.
And she's just not. She has no connection to this. So I'm gonna find a family member to rewatch it with. But for a one season thing, the character development was great. The emotions were great. You really did feel like Picard was connecting with his son at the end of this season. That could have been the most shoehorned thing in under the wrong writing team. 8 episodes, 12 episodes that could have not been properly developed. And by the end of this episode, I really felt like it was. And when they were wrapping up, I was like, please end it with a card game. Just please. Like the best thing you could do right now would be to end it with a card game.
Yeah.
And they did. And I'm like, yes. Going back to the finale of the show, it was a good way to end the show. And even though there was a stinger afterwards, it was a good way to end this episode or this series, because that's what you needed. You needed that crew back around the table with each other.
So let's talk about the other ending of the show, which is Jack, Seven of Nine, and Raffi all are on board the newly christened Enterprise G.
Right.
Would you watch that show?
So is that what Legacy is? Because they've been teasing Star Trek Legacy. Is that what that show's going to be about?
That's what people keep. That'd be my assumption. Is that's what Star Trek Legacy is going to be.
As long as it's not Q heavy, because again, Q is another thing that they really muddied up with Picard season 2. I would. It definitely felt like they were like, we are not done with Jack Crusher. And I was for that. I was for we are not done with Jerry Ryan, because she has really come into 7 of 9. And the more 7 of 9 we get, the more chances we get Janeway. And I want more Janeway. I want her back, damn it. And Raffi, again, I said I cared about Raffi this season. And I really... It's not that I didn't like her character. I just didn't care about her character in the first 2 seasons. And they really held on to her, because there's a lot of people that they let go over these 3 seasons. They held on to her, and I felt by the end of this episode she earned her place as an ongoing character that I would want to see more of. So yeah, those 3 on a ship, hell yeah.
I'm all for it. Because...
Easter egg. Did you notice the picture that Jack put on his
it
was desk?
It was from like one of the premieres, right?
Yeah, I liked it. With McFadden and Stewart together. I really liked that. That was a cool little thing.
The other Easter egg I caught in the finale was President Chekhov, played by Walter Koenig, but his name was Anton Chekhov. So after Anton Yelchin, who played him in the rebooted franchise, I guess he's the son of the Chekhov from the original series. That was a fun Easter egg for me. I would definitely watch another show with those characters at the Enterprise, because I think the thing they realized making these shows was, especially with Strange New Worlds, like, we want to make Star Trek, so why don't we just make new Star Trek? And I think Strange New Worlds is fantastic, but you're limited with how long that show can go because it's set before the original series. And now they're already bringing Kirk into season 2. Spock's already there. You got Uhura. So I don't know if that's going to go past season 3. But if you want to do a Star Trek show and do it episodic and just have each episode stand alone, I think this would be the best way to do it, is have a new crew on the Enterprise, tell new stories, make it episodic, don't make it serialized.
And people are tired of you going back. Like, I think I haven't watched Discovery since the first season. I think Discovery is now in the future, and so some people are like, we can like this show a little more now because it's no longer the past, But I'm just like, if Legacy is Jack, Rafi, and Seven moving forward, and every once in a while we get a cameo like Tuvok or Janeway. Yes, that's calling back to an older series, but it still feels like the continuation we've been waiting for. Ever since we whether they were rebooting it in the movies or starting over with Enterprise or with Discovery, they just keep on going back, and I'm like, extend it forward. Like, it doesn't have to be over with Voyager. Like, just go, especially since these characters are still around. Let's go forward, not backwards. And so I would love that if that's one of the new shows, is moving forward.
Before season 3 of Picard, I think my favorite Star Trek that has been released on Paramount Plus or CBS All Access, if we're going to count that too, was the first season of Strange New Worlds. Have you watched that at all?
I haven't, and enough people have said I should give it a try, and I do like the guy that plays Pike.
He is fantastic.
So I might watch it.
The show itself does a really good job of standing alone and not relying on the fact that it's set before the original series. Like, there is some stuff that you need from Discovery because it is a spinoff of Discovery, but they do a good job of not making you have to sit through that whole second season of Discovery to understand it. I highly recommend it, so definitely check that out.
Yeah, it is on my list. I would much rather see that than what was the new movie they just announced. It's
Michelle Yeoh, Section 31.
Yeah, and that just has Alex Kirkman's jizz all over it, and I like Michelle Yeoh, but I don't have any faith in that movie. So who knows? That
character was interesting enough that I the fact that they're making a movie and not a series, I think is promising. Like, I think we're seeing that with Disney too a little bit, with Marvel being like, "Oh, hey, Armor Wars is no longer a show. We're gonna make it a movie and tell the story quickly." So
maybe it'll be better for that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, Picard season 3 did what I just couldn't imagine they could do. It wiped away the tarnish of it. It's not the Clone Wars scenario where it makes the prequels better. Picard season 3 does not make Picard 1 and 2 better. At no point do I feel like I want to start over Picard from season 1 episode 1. No, I want to go out and buy season 1 and season 2 and burn it, and then just watch season 3 over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Because it really did feel like the sequel. TNG, was so beloved, and it had such great. It was such a great show. They had great movies. They weren't all great, but I loved the constant evolution of those characters. Those characters were written and meant to continue, and this was a finale that did so much justice to all of them. I really didn't feel like any of them got the short end of the stick. I forgot to mention Beverly Crusher's moment when they're like, "Beverly, you're gonna have to do the phasers and the torpedoes," and she just lays hell to the Borg, and they all turn around like, "What have you been doing over the last 20 years?" I love even that moment. That was a great moment.
A lot of sex ghosts.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of sex ghosts.
Yeah, is great.
So I think it's fair to say that season 3 of Picard is brilliant, but seasons 1 and 2 are lazy.
Yes, tie it in.
Yes,
tie it in.
I feel like that's how we should start ranking stuff on the show. It's brilliant or it's lazy.
Sure. And talking about lazy, do we want to get into the to the third topic of today's show?
Well, I'm going to propose that we hold off on that, because not only do we have that third show, but we also have a lot of things from the con around that show and that franchise. So I propose maybe we do a special May the 4th edition of Brilliant But Lazy and talk about all of that stuff because it is going on 11 o'clock here, and I am tired.
All right, that's fine. As long as we don't wait for May the 4th. Like, are you saying we film this on May the 4th? Because
No.
I don't think I can go 2 weeks without talking about Mando season 3.
No, we can talk about it. Let's record it next week, and then we'll just have Josh release it on May the 4th.
Sink in a bit. Yeah, sounds good. We
Because
did talk a lot about Picard, and I'm happy we talked as much as we did.
Because I don't know about you, May the 4th, I'm booked to go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because that's the only day that weekend I'm free to go see it.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah. Well, at least you're seeing something space-based, right?
Yeah, something. I mean, I'll watch Star Wars before that. Like, I've got the whole day. Or I'll at least listen to the soundtracks. But I think that does it for this edition of Brilliant But Lazy. Check out Victims and Villains for more Brilliant But Lazy. Subscribe to our YouTube. Listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to visit our website for mental health resources. A lot of fun stuff there. From the film festival and Creature Feature Weekend coming out soon on our YouTube page. So stay tuned. A lot of cool things happening with Victims. But for Brilliant But Lazy, I'm Alan.
I am Josh.
And engage. Make it show number 1. I don't know why I went Sean Connery.